Hi everyone. So today I'm interviewing DJ. So DJ, how are you? What's new?
I'm good. Nothing's new. I'm off of work today, so I'm just kind of relaxing, getting some stuff done that I need to, and yeah, nothing
Okay.
crazy.
And what do you like to do to relax?
Um, that's an interesting question. What do I do to relax? Probably read. I need to have some type of structure or something that I am investing in, and usually that takes on the form of having something that I'm working through intellectually. So a certain book that I'm working through, kind of um, having time to think about things and to learn more and gain more information about whatever I'm interested in. So that's usually how I recharge, I guess. And
Hmm.
like kind of engaging my body in some way or interacting with people can be a recharging endeavor, I guess.
Okay. Makes sense. And what is it about learning that you find relaxing?
Hmm. I think I have a lot of mental energy, and if I don't find an avenue to get it out, I can be mentally restless. So when I'm able to kind of pinpoint when I'm thinking about something or um, gaining more information, it just makes my mind feel at ease because I just have a lot of mental stimulation. And if I'm not mentally stimulated, then I can kind of act out and find things to stimulate me. Um,
Yeah,
and so, yeah,
makes sense. And what do you do for work?
I I deliver for Fedex, so I just
So I didn't quite. Oh, for
I
FedEx, I see.
yeah FedEx
Yeah.
FedEx ground. hmm
Okay. And was getting into delivering for FedEx something you found yourself in? Is it something you wanted to do for a while? How did you get into delivering for FedEx?
I actually had a friend that worked there, and the job sounded pretty intriguing. I feel like in terms of how the job operates, I'm someone that can do it effectively. It's physical, which I like physical work, and it was just kind of an opportunity that I found just talking to him, um, and he thought I would be
Mm,
good for it. So pretty much just finding just people telling me about it, and then joining, and then figuring out that I feel like I'm good at it. So.
okay, makes sense. And what do you enjoy the most about working for FedEx?
Probably that it's selective on who can do it. I like that it's very
Hmm.
challenging physically, and I would say
Yeah.
to a degree it's challenging emotionally and mentally because when kind of difficult circumstances arise, it challenges your ability to handle it and see what you're capable of handling. Um, and I like that it's physical. I like that there's a level of like where you can see how well you're doing it and just the the knowing that you're getting things off the truck and kind of completing that task feels pretty rewarding. So yeah, the demandingness of it is attractive to me.
Makes sense. And what do you find least engaging?
Hmm, that's interesting. Probably hmm, least engaging. Um, I really don't know. I think maybe how strict they are on the way you're supposed to do things. I feel like I learned that the most important part about delivering is getting the stop off. And so for me, I don't really care as much about the little details of delivering that they would value to me that seems somewhat irrelevant. All that matters at the end of the day is that you're getting the stop off and you're doing it successfully. And to me, it's like I don't have to do things the way that's completely by the book. I can find the way that I feel like is still effective, and that's the way that I do it. So, yeah. So probably kind of the micromanaging. I don't like being micromanaged. I work better when I'm given a challenge and you allow me to do it on my own without interfering on that process. And they can be a little, at times, infringing on your freedom, and I don't like that.
No, that makes sense. In what other ways do you like to express your freedom?
By creating things, expressing my freedom. Probably self-expression to a degree. Kind of being fully myself and not caring about the way that I come across. That feels natural to me, just being as I am and letting the pieces fall. Pieces fall where they may. That can take a form in like music. Music has been a fairly recent hobby of mine. It is a place that probably one of the only places that I express my emotions. I wouldn't say I'm a very emotional person, especially from the surface. And so playing music kind of allows me to connect myself to my emotions and then put it out there for people to kind of listen to or whatever. I kind of just do it for myself. I don't even do it for people. It's more of the expression itself that feels like a release, an emotional release. So that's, yeah. I'm probably off topic, but it's just natural.
Oh, no, it's good. I like that. I like it very much. So when it comes, what kinds of emotions do you identify most with, and which are perhaps rarer emotions for you, emotions you may see in others but may not really relate to in yourself?
Well, the one emotion is anger. I'm very quick to get angry, and that's an emotion that I'm fairly comfortable with. I don't like the word happiness because I wouldn't say that I would say goofy, possibly, maybe childlike, but emotions that I don't really like to express, especially in other people and seeing in other people, are like negative emotions. That's where I'm like sadness or shit like that, where I'm like, nah, I don't want any part of that. But yeah, those are I don't really, again, like if I'm feeling sad, whatever you want to call it, that's never on display, and it's usually I will kind of unconsciously find an outlet for that, which was music, and I didn't know that I was doing it for that end.
Right.
But most people don't ever see that, I'd say.
I see. So there's an interesting tension there. It's like on one side there's a desire for the authentic self-expression, expressing how you are, not having to curtail who you are in that expression. And at the same time, a certain selectiveness in terms of what emotions you are going to feel comfortable expressing and which ones you find a different outlet for.
Right. Exactly.
Does that sound right to you?
Yeah, that's definitely correct. Yeah, I mean being because I also hold other people, I hold their authenticity as well. So if someone's truly expressing something, even if I don't agree with it or whatever, I value that the person is able to be themselves. Like they're not trying to conform to the expectation of how people are called to interact. They're just like, this is how it is. I don't really care about how it's going to affect the people in the group. Like this is just, I'm just going to say it. Like it is what it is. So, yeah.
Yeah. Makes sense. There's also that respect there as well. Other people can be authentic, and I can be authentic, and it's not at the expense of anyone else. So you said that anger comes naturally to you. Why is anger that natural emotion for you? What is it about anger that you align to?
It motivates me. Like when I'm frustrated, things happen. And I actually perform better when I have a level of frustration because I move into a kind of flow state where I'm moving forward and nothing's going to stop me. No obstacle is going to overpower me, at least in my mind. And so anger is a kind of fuel, an emotional fuel that kind of um, keeps me in momentum, I guess. So
Makes sense.
and it's not I think frustration's a better word because anger, I wouldn't say that I'm like truly angry about things. It's more of an annoyance and a frustration. But
Yeah,
yeah.
I see. So it's not that you're hurling things at the wall or making a loud racket. It's more that thing that pissed you off, and so that's going to create an inner fire, an inner energy, which allows you to accomplish feats that you wouldn't have accomplished otherwise.
100%. Yeah.
Right. Okay. Makes sense. Makes sense. So, would you say you were quite a short-tempered person?
uh yes. I would say that. Yeah. But it's usually never personal. It's usually about objects in the sense that if I feel like something needs to be moved or like needs to be done, like it's never if I'm barking at someone, which I wouldn't say that I bark at people, but it's like the person is never, it's not personal. It's like I'm seeing
Yeah.
people in a way that's kind of, in some way you can say it's objective or it's objectifying in the sense that it's like you're an object in this environment and I need to put you here or you need to do this. It's not like I'm making kind of like judgments about the person necessarily. It's like just get it done. Like this just needs to be done. It's not personal at all. And if other people put it back on me, I don't take it personally either. It's just what it is. So,
Yeah.
um, yeah,
Hmm. So that's very interesting. So the idea is that the source of the anger is not the person. You did this. You It's because of your intentions, your character that did this. It's more you're just another obstacle in the way, and I'm frustrated. And I'm going to push through.
100%. And I feel like that's why um, I can. How do I want to say it? It's also a two-way street because again, like I don't take it unless someone says something overtly personal. Then I'm gonna be like, okay, that's different. But if you're telling me, even if someone said you suck at
Yeah.
your job, I would not take that
Yeah.
as a personal attack. I would just take it as like I'm just not good and I need to get better. That's just either it's true or it's not. It's not like I as a person am lesser because I'm not good. It's like you just aren't good and you need to get better. Like, but
Makes sense. So let's talk about something else. Let's talk about. Do you have lots of friends?
no. I have I have I have a lot of acquaintances, but I don't have a lot of close friends, I'd say.
Okay. And why is that?
I don't want to have a lot of friends. Honestly, the friends that I have, I'm content with a very closed circle. And if I meet people down the road, I don't think everything should be a friendship. Like I feel like a lot of times you just won't mix well with people. I feel like sometimes people have this notion too that you have to befriend everybody. I'm like, no, you don't. Like you absolutely don't. Like the people that have known you the longest, it makes sense that they're a friend. You tell them stuff and shit like that. But I don't like people getting too close to me because it seems like there's an expectation of building on it, and if I don't want it, I'm like I'm not subscribing to that. So, um, yeah, yeah.
Okay. It's almost relationships can almost become restricted. They can become um, too much expectation can limit you.
Yeah, they can feel obtrusive. Like they feel like there's an expectation to meet the criteria of what equals a good relationship or a friendship, and that irritates me. I would be more prone to befriend someone if they had zero expectation than if they had 1% expectation. And my friends are usually the ones that have 0% expectation, which is why we're friends.
Right. And does that work both ways?
Not all the time. I do have some friends. I'll say this. My best friend is like that in the sense that he doesn't have expectations. Some of my other friends are the exact opposite of me, and it causes issues because they will be like, well, I haven't seen you in 2 weeks. Like, we need to hang. I'm like, no, we don't. Like, why? I don't understand how the time necessarily equates to we need to hang out. I just don't operate on the same wavelength. So I can, in some ways, can be a bad friend, but I don't feel like I am. So, yeah.
So for you, when do you want to hang out with your friends?
When I want to. Or, that's not always true. I sound fucking heartless, bro. It can be when I want to. I sound like a terrible person. I'm just being straight up, bro. Like, I'm just telling it like it is. But when I want to, but also when's another time? I mean, if I haven't seen them for a legitimately long time, I'll be like, "Hey, bro, let's hang out." But it's casual. It's not like this forced. Well, we gotta meet every week. It's like, "Hey, man, I'm free. Let's just shoot the shit." Like very casual. Nothing needs to be super personal, and then it's fine. And then we go away and we come back whenever.
Makes sense. Okay. What qualities in other people do you admire the most?
Oh, qualities in other people. Maybe that they have a good sense of humor. They don't take themselves too seriously. They think critically about things. They have rationale. People that don't rationalize things. Oh, here's another quality. That they are themselves despite societal pressure, and they'll just say what it is. Even if I don't agree with it, I will respect a person for authentically expressing that opinion. But I wouldn't say, I don't know, I don't really think about the qualities of people, like what makes me like certain people and what doesn't, I guess. And I don't even know if I look for those qualities consciously. But
makes sense. Thank you. What is the best piece of advice you got from someone else?
Best piece of advice. Shit, I don't even know. I don't know. I have no idea. Probably, my dad always told me to think before I speak, but that doesn't really work well. But I also don't think that's like, I don't think that's like, I don't know. Actually. I have no idea.
Okay, no worries. Let me think. Where do you see yourself in 10 years' time?
Oh, man. I hate this question. I don't know. Probably, possibly married when I'm 23. Yeah, maybe have kids. Hopefully advancing in my job, whatever that is, or finding a more optimal position. But I have no idea, to be quite honest.
No worries. And I know that was put in a rather more personal context. How about what are some of your ambitions for your future?
To have impact, I feel like if I'm not impacting things, then I feel like I'm wasting my potential. And I feel like I work best when I'm in situations that I can lead things and direct things in
Yep.
some fashion or another. So having greater responsibility in meeting that standard, I guess.
Makes sense. How easy is it for you to change your mind?
In what context?
In what
Like
context do you find yourself most often changing your mind?
if someone has sound reasoning, if even if, like I said, even if I don't agree with it, as long as I can see the points of where they were going with that thought, then I will at least listen to it. But it's pretty hard to change my mind, I would say. I have a very bordered, very, I don't want to say it. Like, I feel like my mind is like this castle thing, and then there's a moat around it, and it's really hard to get over the moat and into the castle, even though the door's open. Let's say the
Right.
door's wide open. It's like I'm not necessarily unwilling to change my mind. If you give me solid reason, then I will consider changing my mind. But sometimes I will think what I think is more valid. So I can be. It's hard to change my mind, I'd say. Or you're saying, well, yeah, I guess it's still the same answer. But I don't change my mind a lot, I'd say.
Makes sense. You need solid reasons, and then you'll consider it. And it's not that you're closed to the challenge. You're open to the challenge, but you need some tough reasons for you to start changing your mind.
And they need to be ground. They need to be able to withstand pushback, because that can also change my mind in the sense that if they can't withstand the pressure when I put it on them, then I won't even have to consider, because it's like that reason was invalid simply because it couldn't hold up. And so when it has pressure on it, it crumbles. So it's not a foundation. So I just will disregard it.
Makes sense. You talked a bit before about putting some structure in your day. What does that structure look like?
Getting things done. I need structure, because if I don't have it, I won't get anything done, and I can just be super aimless. Like I don't know what I'm doing. I'm just going to do whatever happens. But I do work well when I have a general level of structure, and plan, like kind of like a game plan for the day of what I need to do, and what I need to accomplish. But it's not very like this, then that, then this, then that. It's kind of general, I'd say.
Okay. Makes sense. Let's see what I can ask you. So, what kinds of hobbies do you have? I know you have music as one thing that interests you. Anything else?
Sports. Fuck. What else? I lift weights. That's fun, I suppose. Yeah, my hobbies aren't really. They're just kind of generic, I guess. But yeah, so music, sports, lift weights. That's pretty much hanging with friends, I guess, is one. That's pretty much it.
Okay. What is a moment in your past that you consider to be transformative?
So I'm a Christian, and that has drastically changed, I think, the direction of my life. If I didn't have faith, I don't know what I would do. I'd be fucking crazy. And I still kind of am, but that has, yeah, it's unavoidable, but, but that has transformed everything. I mean, I think I would be far more anti-communal and selfish if I wasn't a Christian, like absolutely. But I take it seriously, and it means a lot to me, and it's also, I've seen the impact that I've been able to have on other people because of my faith, and so that's kind of there's a lot more reasons as to why I'm a Christian, but I would say that those are pretty fundamental. So,
and is that something which is about acting with good spirit, with good intentions, or is it something a bit more rules based for you?
I almost see them as complementary. I wouldn't say that I'm a rules-based kind of individual at all, but I do think there are some rules that are unavoidable and they guide existence. Some rules you just can't go against, because they're so, like gravity is a cosmological rule, if you want to call it that. You can't really defy gravity, right? So it's like there's always going to be principles that you can't. So I would say it's a combination of the two, really.
Right, I see. It's almost like it's not a question of holding a principle. It's not doing this out of a principle. It's more, this is the way of things. If you don't do this, you will go splat.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
Okay. Because it's not a principle like an idea. It's a principle as in a real, actual thing that will happen.
Yeah. I mean, as a principle, you shouldn't drink. If you drink too much water, you'll die. Like, that's a principle of whatever you want to call it, biology. It's unavoidable. Like, you can think that you won't, but you still will. So it's like, yeah. That was a terrible analogy, but it gets the job done.
But it does lead me to wonder, at what point does the faith depart from the proverbial common sense, where it's like, what is the extra that faith brings to what one might call common sense, which of course is actually quite a rare thing, this common sense. But
yeah, common sense is not common. It's not at all. Yeah, I mean, I think to some degree, in terms of, I mean, this could be a rabbit trail, but in terms of kind of the principles of life, many people are unconsciously gravitating towards them, but calling them different things. And so, you get some woo people that are into the energies and the chakras and shit, and I don't really hold much weight to those. But we're all naturally, I think, designed for those questions. It's unavoidable. So that would be my take on that.
What is a problem you have come up against that you have managed to solve or push through on?
My whole job is a problem. There's a lot of. It's funny because you'd think FedEx would run, like they would have all their ducks in a row, but they don't. And it's literally like going into football practice or some arena where there's always constant issues that you have to move forward and push forward or find the solution and get past. And so, I guess one problem that I kind of got through was on my route. I realized that it was super inefficient because it was the manifest, the system that kind of shits out the route. It's a computer, so it can't account for things that it doesn't know in the sense of traffic. That's only observable by people. Like computers to a degree. I mean, you have GPS, but like I had to account for the route in terms of non technological issues like traffic or when school gets out, things like that I had to account for to make my route run as efficiently as possible. And so I took that into account when I started my route. Like I need to have this many stops done before 3:00 before the buses start slowing me down, because I can't. They wait there for 2 minutes, 3 minutes at a time. If I get 3 buses, that's 6 minutes. All of those things are taken into consideration in order to be efficient. And so, that's a major problem, I'd say. But
thank you, DJ. I think well, to be fair, I had this opinion quite early on, and I have a pretty strong opinion now on what your type is. And we could talk about that. We could challenge that, see what people think. I think most people in the chats also see this. Random name seems to know you. He seems to lean this way as well. But yeah, I think SLE makes sense.
Yeah,
And yeah, the reason why I think
that
that
doesn't
is,
surprise me.
yeah, so first of all, high energy, quite restless, lots of moving around there. Like you're not the sort of person to sit still.
Yeah, no,
You talk
not even a little bit.
about things. You have this idea that anger is a motivating force. You know that you are at your best when you are confronting something, when you're coming up against some sort of resistance, and that kind of resistance gives you the energy to then to fight back, to push through, to achieve things, to get that impact. And where you like to be is where, to some degree, you're in charge. You know, you're in a position where you're leading, you're having the impact, you're making the decisions, and you want things to be also on your terms. You make things in a way that's on your terms. You talk to people when you want to talk to them. So there's a lot of extroverted sensation in there, I would say, and even things
Hmm.
like we were exploring. I said before about sort of principles versus rules, which aren't ideas. It is just a fact that will hit you over the head. This idea that almost there is definitely a logical structure going on. There's an idea that certain things turn on certain rules, certain algorithms, as it were, rather than just a loose collection of facts. There's almost
Right.
a setting out of what that actually is in a structured way, but at every single point that is linked to something physical, something that will whack you in the face. And even you
Hmm.
talk about your mind in terms of the fortifications, in terms of the bricks and the mortar that people have to get through. And in fact, you're open to a challenge, but you still got that moat. Still got that thing that people have to almost physically cross over with an ironclad reason to get over.
Right.
And the idea that there's going to be challenge, there's going to be pushback, there's going to be arrows fired through the holes in the portcullis, as it were. There's that, the use of introverted logic is very much integral, but it's always behind the extroverted sensations, always something concrete and real that drives it. Otherwise, it's just speculation for the sake of speculation, which doesn't seem to be the value. Extrovert intuition is not the valued thing. You can do it to some degree, but you're not in it for its own sake, like you are for that, acting decisively in the moment to have an impact, to make things happen.
Hmm.
There is wrong extroverted logic. You don't want this idea that people are setting rules for you to follow to tell you how you're meant to be doing it is not your sort of thing. You solve your own problems. You can think pragmatically. You can look at something. You can find a way through. You don't just push through blindly. You also apply your brain to figure that out, and you're very confident in that sort of area. However, that doesn't
Hmm.
seem to me to be the thing which is actually the sort of high stakes, high reward. That seems like the low stakes, low reward. Yeah, of course I can figure out these issues. Why not? That's not a difficult thing. But instead, where there is more of that high stakes, high reward, so high risk, is when it comes to opening up emotionally, when it comes to that
Hmm.
authentic self expression. It is meaningful to you to express yourself in that fullest, most emotive sense. But some emotions, you're going to be very confident showing you know how to pull that off, say with the anger, but also with the goofy side, you can pull that off. The more vulnerable side of emotion, you're not sure will it be taken in the way which I want it to be taken? How can I put that across? Maybe I can work that into something which is which is easier for me to process, which is through music.
Hmm.
And so we see here, extroverted is there. It's a bit more vulnerable than, say, your logic side and your sensation side. It seems to me to be perhaps a weaker element, but something you've pushed at and grown in to some degree. And indeed, you see when you're really doing the best in life, when you talk about the community, the positive reflection that your actions have had on that community, and that gives you great meaning when there's some sort of
Hmm.
positive resonance from the people around you. Now, there is a blind spot, and I think it's that introverted ethics. Even when something is pissing you off, even when something is a problem, you don't view it in a personal way. They're just an
Hmm.
obstacle. They're not a person of bad or good intentions, whatever it is. That doesn't factor as being relevant. They are an obstacle, and you'll push that out of the way. You'll find a way through.
Hmm.
So you with the logic, not with the ethics, not with the personal judgment. And the idea of people carrying personal expectations for a relationship, this idea that this needs to be, this relationship is this close rather than that close, therefore there's a certain way of treating you, etc. That is very sort of alien to you. Instead, you go with your mood, you go with how you feel in that particular moment, and it's very much, you don't want to be used to sort of take away your autonomy, that relationship.
Right.
And it's the idea that relationships are taking away your power rather than structures. Instead, structures, if you don't like them, you'll break them, you'll change whatever it is, and you can come up with your own rules if you want. But the relationships is like, I'm not quite sure what to do about this sort of area. I don't think in those that's alien to me. So vulnerable function, introverted ethics, I think makes a lot of sense. And when I asked you about what you're doing in the future, you hate that question. No, you're a man of the moment. You're a man of action. But you also realize, even though it's difficult for you to think really far ahead in terms of where things are going strategically, what events will lead to other events in the future, you nevertheless see that if you don't have a direction, if you don't have something to make this worth doing, you're acting in a directionless way. There's lots of energy. It could go in all sorts of places. You want it to be concerted towards something. So that's how impact is best manifested, towards a goal, towards something that is of purpose, that's of meaning. So, yeah, there is you call that your structure, as it were. It sounds to me more like the introverted intuition, something provided to you to really galvanize the best of your qualities. So yeah, introverted sensation. I mean, there is that physical aspect to you as well. There's that grounded aspect. It's not away with the fairies, but it doesn't seem to be the sort of a comfortable, soft side of sensation is being put across nearly as much as the more. No, I'm up for a struggle. I'm up for a fight with reality to make my impact, to make my mark. So introvert sensation is. It doesn't seem to be weak. It doesn't seem to me to be there very much, which makes sense for an ignored function. And I'd already talked about the demonstrated function, extroverted logic. So yeah, does that seem to make sense? Was that what you thought you might have been before this interview?
Yeah, I feel like SLE fits me really well. I know. Yeah, I mean, I've read a lot, and I think how all those dynamics work makes a lot of sense. I think the TE and the TI one is because I know that I have strong TE by a lot of by really any system, but when it comes down to it, for me, it is it's almost that I'm using TE for a certain end, and I will grab information and learn, but it's more about the way that I'm already perceiving something and kind of fitting that subjective kind of formation, I guess. But
well, and that's also the thing. The learning side is very important here. Not many people relax by learning, right? As in the process of taking in new information and just acquiring that, and knowing how to apply that. That is such an efficient, an energy efficient process for you that is actually something you do to relax rather than something that is hard and makes your head hurt. That is a very clear sign from my experience to look at people of extroverted logic being four-dimensional, either in a leading function or in a demonstrative function. And the idea of learning to relax, as in, it's not that my life is all about learning. I'm all about taking in knowledge and applying it for its own sake. I mean, it's not taken with that same seriousness that I do to relax. It relaxes me to learn. That also could point things more towards a demonstrative, even more than a leading. I know many ILEs who learn to relax, and I think this is something which is also the same for SLE. Any other questions, EJ?
I do not have any. I will say one thing too.
No.
That's a good point about the extroverted thinking being something that's relaxing. Obviously, I said that, but especially because I don't feel like there's a lot of dead information that I have. Like there's information that I acquire that I don't even use it all the time. So it's kind of it's literally just absorbing it, and then when I need it, then I'm like, okay, I will apply it. But there's not like I'm not thinking about I have to get this information to use it necessarily. I got a bunch of random ass information for no reason, like.
Yeah.
But
The use of things itself is not the metric. Like, yes, you are perfectly aware of the use of things, but that in itself is not a metric that's of a special importance to you. And if there's some random, stuff which can actually you can work into some sort of goofy joke, you can do it to actually, have banter with friends. That's fine. That's good information to have. You won't need to look for a use for everything.
Right. Yeah, the description I think fits me very well. So yeah, dope.
Let's if you're all right with it, let's look at some questions people may be asking, just to see if there's any other insights we can
For
give up.
sure.
Let's see. Random name wanted to know how old is he? I think you said 23, isn't that right?
Yes, 23.
Actually, I think he might already know. He's exaggerating something. Don't know. Let's see. Oh, Essa got SLE as well. Very good, Essa. Yeah. D-Doc thinks SLE. Very good, D-Doc. Yeah, there seems to be the consensus here. What else are people saying? There was a question. Yes, there's a question from random name. My question is how I could pick up on the FE mobilizing. It was more so unvalued F5 that gave it away. Well, remember I said I asked DJ about how you express your freedom. How does that appear? And DJ even said you went down a bit of a tangent there in terms of talking about how you express yourself through music, how it's about being authentic, it's about showing who you really are to other people. And that already is very much going into extroverted ethics territory. It's the idea that there's some sort of emotional energy that you want to let out, which also other people can pick up on, and you think about how to express that. And later you talked about how anger really is a motivating emotion for you. There is something that there's something about it which which enriches your experience of your actions. It's not just a question of learning techniques, looking at how to apply this and that. That you don't get that same. You weren't talking about that aspect with the same relish as you did with having an emotional and physical experience in acting on something and making that impact. So I could see the valuedness of it coming to the foreground. I could see that sense that you were deriving genuine satisfaction from that. Whereas if I ask you about how you solve a problem, that's more your meat and potatoes rather than something truly sublime.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's the answer to that one. Any questions for DJ? Here's a question from DJ from Fate. How would DJ feel about people's emotionality of the room? Can you change your feel at the moment, or do you prefer your own feelings?
I don't like. I can vibe with the room emotionally. I don't like my emotions to in a group show if it's negative emotions. So I can exchange jokes with people and kind of pick up on the emotional vibe relatively easily. I don't have a lot of energy for it, I guess. It's not I can only do it for a certain amount of time, but I don't want people to directly see my emotions that are more vulnerable. That's like if they hear it through music, that's more of a vulnerable place, so I will express it there. But I'm pretty good at adapting to the demands of the environment emotionally.
That makes sense. Okay. Yeah. So again, it's the finding ways of extroverted ethics to show without it then contradicting the need for strength from extroverted sensation. So the vulnerable emotions aren't going to be ones you're going to be as comfortable sharing as the stronger emotions. So anger is always an emotion of strength. It's an emotion which creates strength. So
Yeah,
that makes a lot of sense.
If people are in that vulnerable emotional state in the environment, that makes me super uncomfortable. But if people are laughing and sharing like opinions and like getting kind of like debates in those kind of settings, those don't do anything to me. I can easily interact in that kind of environment. But if people are crying and like upset, that's extremely uncomfortable.
Yeah. So what do you do when someone is, sobbing and, just a general emotional wreck? What do you do about that?
I'm pretty stoic and I still value like it's kind of a logical thing, like whatever the issue is, I'll listen to them and talk to them through it kind of, but I don't share that particular emotion. That's where I'm like, I'm not, nah. I'll give you
Yeah.
advice and kind of like listen to you, but you're not gonna you're not gonna pull out of me that emotion, and then I'll be extremely stoic and like unaffected.
Right, I see. So you'll have you can have a cognitive empathy when it comes to the affective empathy. You sort of bring down the drawbridge, bring up the sadness. I'll share with the anger with you. I'll share with the laughs with you, but I'm not going to share in your sadness. You're not going to make me into a sad boy.
Right, exactly. Exactly.
Yeah, that makes sense. Makes sense. You're not going to knock me off my perch with your emotions. You're going to
Facts.
sort of raise me up. It's
Yes.
not going to knock me down. Okay. Random Name has a question. Have you done the Big Five, DJ?
I have. If you list the traits, I could probably tell you, but I don't remember what I got.
Okay, you want to know what your Big Five traits. So the first one is openness to experience.
Yeah, I think isn't there's like an assertive one too, or like a I got something
Yeah.
that it was like
You
the
got?
asserter or something like that.
Yes, under extroversion divides up into assertiveness or
Mm.
warmth. So there's a two. Everything divides up into two, or you could divide up it further than that. But yeah, so you said you got very high in assertiveness under extroversion.
Yeah,
I
100%.
wouldn't be, I wouldn't be surprised if you're in a very high percentile for that. But I think any SLE would. You're not an SLE if you're not very high in assertiveness.
Right, right.
Makes
Yeah,
sense.
I forget what they were. Now I kind of want to figure it out. Oh well.
I know openness was about how intellectually curious you are. You like new ideas, concepts, but
I think
also artistic side as well.
I think I was I had some of that. I'm not really sure how high it was, but I definitely think that was there.
Makes sense. And how about conscientiousness? Sort of the hard working, structuring, achieving side.
Oh, I thought that wasn't there was one that was it was neuroticism. I think it was neuroticism. I got really low.
Ah,
Like I was highly neurotic.
highly neurotic. Okay.
Yeah.
Now that's
Conscientious I think was
because yeah, go
good.
on. Okay, now in neuroticism is interesting because again it also divides up into two, and the two is really one is stability, the other is confidence. So the idea of if you're well, really instability and lack of confidence is seen in terms of neuroticism. So the instability one, people who lose their temper quite quickly can have mood swings, have trouble restraining their impulses. So maybe you get a higher score in that one. But when it
Yeah.
comes to the other one, which is actually about having fear, anxiety, being self-conscious, feeling sad, feeling doubtful, I imagine you actually get quite low in that one.
Yeah, that's low. It was more on the impulsive end for sure.
Yeah,
No doubt.
that makes sense. Yeah, yeah. Okay. And agreeableness is another one. Yeah, probably.
Super low.
Yeah, lower end. And the thing, it's an interesting thing about agreeableness. As well, look, everyone knows. A lot of people know about conscientiousness. High conscientiousness leads to more greater success in a role. There's a strong link to that, but also agreeableness. Also, if it's lower, you're more likely to be more successful because you're going to be more demanding in negotiating higher salaries. You're going to make tougher decisions to get further ahead, as it were, whereas those who are highly agreeable can be taken advantage of.
Yeah. I think I work with an SOE, and he demands like a raise like every 4 months.
Yeah.
Like constantly. He's just like, I'm doing this work and I'm the best. Like, pay me more. Like, he just is super demanding, and it's hilarious. And we're also really close. Like, he's my homie, which is pretty funny.
No, that makes sense. That makes a lot of sense. Okay. I think that's all big five done. D-Doc asks, what kind of music do you listen to?
I listen to everything except for country. The only country that I like is Chris Stapleton, and he's kind of like not country. He's kind of like blues kind of country. But I listen to mostly rap. I like kind of like indie shit, which is the music that I don't play around people. Most people don't know I like that.
It's a guilty pleasure.
Yes, I like singer-songwriter shit. I'll be banging that shit in my car, like, but no one's listening. Like, but I like that stuff. Like, I for real do. Like Hozier, fucking love Hozier. Yeah, I like anything R&B, pop, a lot of stuff.
Yeah, makes sense. Oh, interestingly, Random Name says, as an IEI, I'm exactly the opposite. I have a hard time with angry people. I feel comfortable with essentially the hand-holding side. So that's, sad feelings. Makes sense. Makes total sense there. Oh, here's a one from Fate. Do you prefer attacking defensively or attacking first offensively?
I'm definitely a defensive person. I can kind of look for I kind of size people up. Like if they're trying to attack me in a general sense, I will look more for like weak points, but I don't usually hit first. I let them cross the line. Once they cross the line, I've already observed where they're weak. So take advantage of that.
Makes sense. Makes sense. So when it comes to, when it comes to a confrontation, you want to think, I've got a cause.
Yes, absolutely.
Now, the question is, if you weren't a Christian, would that be different?
I would be. I still have the same functions in the sense that I would still mostly operate on the same principles, but I would be far more ruthless. So and vengeful. Like, okay, you cross that line. Now I'm more of like trying to see perspective, but I still might punch back. Before, if I wasn't a Christian, you cross the line, it's war, and I'm gonna attack you in your sleep today, tomorrow, the next day. It's just all out war. So, yeah, that's probably how I would. I would still function the same way, but it would be on a even more aggressive end, I think.
Yeah, makes sense. So basically, without Christianity, you'd be a Viking marauder, essentially.
Yeah, I would be a terrible person. I'm not gonna lie. I would be doing things purely for my own benefit, and I would be like, I don't give a fuck. Like that would be my natural. Because I kind of view the world that way. Like the world is dog eat dog. It's like people don't care about your vulnerability, so you have to get what you got to get. Everyone's doing that. Even if you're masking it, you're still doing it. So it's like that's my natural mentality, and I've definitely been grown out of that because it's corrupt. I think naturally. So yeah.
But it's interesting because it goes back to other. There's a beta ST philosopher called Hobbes, and his idea was it was an LSI rather than SLE, but similar enough. He thought that mankind is given to violent instincts, is essentially what we see in our society to be bad things, and to be fair, a lot of history would support that, going back to the Middle Ages and all the cutthroat things that were going on there. But he said that it's by having someone powerful enough to impose some kind of structure, some kind of order, some kind of consequences, but actually allows mankind to coexist and actually be part of a society together and derive meaning from that. So he starts with sort of a negativist view of mankind, or quite pessimistic, but through some sort of order, even imposed order, creates that goodness through that structure. So
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think I'm naturally pessimistic about humanity, and that's I can have a cynical worldview. I think in a lot of ways. So I definitely relate to that for sure.
Makes sense. And that's also more consistent with, especially I think, logical, extroverted, sensation valuing types. That they would it's I would say even the ethical ones can, but they don't talk about it in that way. They try and make it look like it has a positive spin, even if they may still think that the logical type is actually right about it in terms of the way they put it. So yeah, fair enough. I think those are all the questions that have come up. Any other thoughts on your mind, DJ? Anything before we wrap up?
Not really. I think you hit the nail on the head for sure.
Thank you. Also, not just me. A lot of people also saw it as well. So a lot of people could be doing it today. Great. Well, DJ, it was an absolute pleasure to get to know you today, and I look forward to our follow-up session in about a week's time.
Sounds good. I appreciate it. Thank you.
You're welcome. Speak soon. Take care.
Sounds good. Bye.
Bye-bye. Bye, everyone. Thanks for tuning in.